Hey, good evening, everybody. Back again. I figured I'd do two videos since I kind of owe you guys for haven't done a video on Sunday. So I'm gonna do another video today. I'm here with my godson Isaiah. He said he didn't want to be recorded, but I just thought I'd acknowledge him for being here, torturing him as he wants to say. No, so something happened a couple of days ago actually, where I shared a picture that showed Goku and Vegeta about to go take on the Marvel Universe, and the way that the Goku and Vegeta were talking was as if they'd be a piece of cake to contend with. That kind of sparked up some feedback because a lot of my friends actually were commenting and saying how it wouldn't be possible, and I started trolling by saying how it would be possible that they could take on the whole universe. And it was really just fun conversation, and it wasn't like I was just making up stuff as I went. It was legitimate concerns that you would want to think about when we're saying it's Dragon Ball Z's two top characters versus the Marvel Universe. Granted, I won't disagree. There's a high possibility they would lose. But on that same note, there's a great possibility they would win. I won't tell you that. I won't tell you that's a lie. I have to, believe in my boys. I put manga and anime above Marvel. I'm sorry, but just being honest. But so that sparked a little interest for me because I know that most of the people that were commenting, most of my friends that were talking from this, were coming from a kind of death battle kind of standpoint where, what all are they capable of? What levels would they reach in this fight? How many times would they fight before we would determine exactly what would happen? What mass destructive power do they have versus another character? If they're facing everybody at once, what the outcome would be? We're just simply thinking as far as, data and statistics or situational basis as to how this would play out. I would actually like to challenge that instead of thinking of it that way, thinking of it in an actual way. If there was a story to it, what exactly would happen if it was Marvel versus DBZ? How exactly would that story actually play out? You know what I mean? Because then you don't read any stories, you don't watch any shows, we don't read any comic books, simply because we're going to go watch the main character beat everybody. One Punch Man does it. Yeah, I get it. Okay, I understand. One Punch Man, yes, he does knock everybody out. But they don't do that without giving you some nice little story to go along with it. Having characters of subpar level contending and struggling, and you're just getting all into those fights, forgetting, oh snap, here comes Saitama, one punch. So it's not as though they're going to write every story as the powerhouse comes in and just wins every time. There's got to be some drawn out to it. There's got to be some background to it, like a backstory. There's got to be some drama to it. There's got to be some love to it even. So there are several different factors that play into what makes those battles even worth watching, is what builds up to the epic battle that we're looking to see. So that's why I want to actually use this video to kind of propose that tonight. So one thing I was thinking about, if it was going to be a Marvel versus DBZ storyline, so how this would start out, and this is just me coming off the top of my head. All right, so if it was going to start out like this, Goku and Vegeta would pop up on Earth. It'd just be like, teleport, boom, they're landed on Earth. They're confused. They're like, wait, this isn't our planet. Why does everything look like this? Because keep in mind, the Dragon Ball Z universe is a little bit more advanced than the actual Marvel universe. And what I mean by that is, outside of maybe the X-Men being on the island of Krakoa, the Fantastic Four being at their tower, Tony Stark being at his tower, the Avengers being up in space in their aircraft, everything is kind of just normal. You got your cars, you got your buildings, you got your people walking, just living their normal life outside of what the heroes do and the villains do. So it's really not going to look so normal to Goku and Vegeta to land here. So they're looking puzzled. They're trying to observe everything. They decide that they're going to go get up and fly, and then they're going to go see the city. Let's see what's going on in this town. As they're flying through and observing everything, they still notice that everything's not familiar. But in the midst of this, what they see is, they see somebody struggling against, well, not struggling, but contending with a villain. And so what happens is, it's Human Torch. Let's make it Human Torch, kind of just to go with the story. Just flow with me here. Thinking off the top of my head, to be totally honest, but I think it's a great idea. So, Human Torch is fighting a villain. Goku and Vegeta come down like, oh, he's struggling. Vegeta doesn't really want to help, but Goku comes down, and Goku comes in and he tries to, fight against this guy, and he's kind of, hitting him, boom, boom, knocking him and everything, and the dude's trying to, really kill Goku. But as he swings back to try and swing on Goku, he's not going to hit Goku. Goku can dodge everything he throws at him. But as he tries to hit Goku, Vegeta, boom, energy blast. does damage to the building, puts a huge hole in the building. Damage has been done. And Human Torch doesn't observe that as them doing necessarily a heroic act. He sees that as them having caused damage to the city. They might be a threat. Let me deal with them. So Human Torch goes on the offensive to try and attack Goku and Vegeta. Now, you might be thinking, well, why would he just jump off and attack them? Granted, what's his name? Oh, I forget his name all of a sudden. But,
Johnny Blaze?
No, not Johnny Blaze. That's Ghost Rider. Anyway, so what he does is, what the Human Torch ends up doing in this situation is, he's kind of thinking slightly immaturely. I know he has matured over the years. They've written him to have shown some character development. But in this instance, he's going to kind of react a little hot-headed to really kind of spark the story. He's a good character, I believe, that would be used to really kind of spark up some warfare between them in a heartbeat without really thinking through, oh, maybe they came to help. Thanks, guys. You know, not being so simplistic about it. So Human Torch, or if you want to make it a bit more interesting, maybe using the Thing, so it can be like hand-to-hand combat instead of energy beams. But we'll see the Human Torch trying to blast these guys. And as they're trying to attack them, Goku's trying to explain himself like, hey, what are you doing? We just helped you and everything. And then Goku knocks out the Human Torch in one hit. And he's like, sorry, I didn't mean to hit you so hard. And so they fly off, right? Panel switches. We find out, you know, Goku and them, we can either have them training. I'm thinking that would be, you know, normal for them. Or to make the story a bit more interesting, we can have them go off into space. So for this storyline, let's say they are still on Earth, or they decided to go somewhere offset and do a bit of training. So as they're going off to offset to train a little bit, Human Torch has made his way back to the Fantastic Four Tower and let everybody know what's happened. You know, these guys knocked me out with one hit. I don't know how strong they are. This, that, and the third. And it has everybody else confused. Ben Grimm wants to go shit out there and let's get it done. Susan Storm's like, hey, no, it's Johnny Storm. That was his name. That's Human Torch's name. Johnny Storm. All right. Rewind. Okay. Fantastic Four. So, Reed Richards uses his technology to be able to kind of just shoot out a camera somewhere and be able to observe the Saiyans and see what's going on with these guys. And they're just training, so he's kind of puzzled as to, you know, who they are, what they're capable of, but they were a threat to Johnny, so they might see him as a threat to, you know, to the city. So maybe we need to get ready to take them down. Otherwise, because if they're building themselves by training, they might be looking to do more damage than what they've already done. So, Reed makes a decision to, you know, let's go out and handle these guys. They go out, they go try and contend with them. You'll, of course, have the Thing and Human Torch contending against Vegeta. I'm really trying to make it simple, only because I've only spent maybe like 2 days thinking about this. So you'll have Human Torch and the Thing trying to beat up Vegeta, and then you'll have Miss Invisible and Reed Richards trying to go against Goku. Goku would basically get wrapped up by Mr. Fantastic, then he just power up, blast him off. Miss Invisible would use her telekinesis to kind of put a bubble of enclosed around his head to cut off his ability to breathe, but Goku would be able to sense where she is, like barely tap her to get her to release that telekinetic energy so that he could start breathing again. Vegeta would easily beat up Human Torch and Thing with no problem. It just become to be like a little back and forth knock around, almost like the beginning of the new Broly movie, when Vegeta was knocking around Broly until Broly went to the next level. But he'll be just knocking the Thing and Human Torch around. So after that, you know, what happens is they fly off, they leave because they see that they've won the fight. They don't have any reason to stick around. They go back into town. As they go back into town, they are being destructive because they're not paying for food. They're going in and eating where they want. They're stopping in the middle of the road, you know, just kind of observing things, but they're getting in the way. They're getting annoying. And Vegeta's kind of trying to coax Goku along to say, come on, Kakarot, let's go. But he's really trying to figure out, you know, where are we? So the Fantastic Four end up going to the SHIELD aircraft that's up in space. You could probably say it's more SWORD. SWORD is more so the spatial system that they use. They have SHIELD, but then they also have SWORD. SWORD is used for intergalactic threats. So they go up to SWORD to kind of converse about what's going on. Now, in this situation, of course, he's went to SWORD so he can converse with Tony Stark and the other Avengers to kind of talk through what's going on. So with him meeting with them, what he lets them know is he knows they're at least not human. That's what Reed Richards actually went to do. He went to go fight them simply to observe them. He figured they wouldn't win, which is actually a historical trademark behavior for the Fantastic Four. They're fighting against really strong threats and losing. I know I am losing light, guys. I'm really sorry. Just keep up with me. I know I'm black and disappearing, but let's keep it rolling. So, So they meet up, they discuss things to try and figure out exactly what it is these people are that is so strong enough to take out the Fantastic Four, knock us around like rag dolls, and they're discussing around some possibilities. They're currently, being that they met on Swords aircraft, they're discussing whether or not they're an alien threat that's just come to Earth and is just causing a bunch of mischief. The Fantastic Four do meet a lot of opponents that are more mischievous than they are actual galactic threats. They're not intending to be threats, but they actually end up being so. So that's kind of what's happening here. But in meeting up with them, what happens is Goku and Vegeta actually show up on Sword's aircraft. And they're like, yeah, we figured we'd follow you because we didn't think you guys would actually stop. We saw you once, we saw you twice, this may happen again. We just want to kind of make peace. So Goku's trying to take the time to actually explain everything to them, but then the Avengers end up trying to contend with them. But this time, Goku and Vegeta take it to where they want to subdue them and not actually fight with them. Reason being is because if they are intergalactically strong, then maybe they might be able to get them home. So they don't want to actually beat them up. They want to actually figure out a way home. So they kind of pin them down and get them to actually listen. And they explain things that we're not from this Earth. We actually, we live on Earth, but this isn't our Earth, so we have no idea where we are. So that, of course, gets Tony Stark and Reed thinking, okay, this is a multiversal thing that's happening. So before ending this panel to actually get to doing some research, Thor's here, the other Avengers are here. I'm just going to keep it basic MCU kind of Avengers. So you got Tony Stark, and we're not talking after Endgame kind of stuff. Let's not be too complicated about this. But you got Tony Stark, you got Thor, you got Captain America, you got Black Widow, you got, let's say we even got Spider-Man up here chilling and watching what's going on here. So Thor's been pinned down and beaten by these guys, and Thor's like, one thing before we get started, let me get you back. He wanted to get a hit in after having gotten, overwhelmed by the Saiyans. So he hits Goku with Mjolnir. After hitting Goku with Mjolnir, Goku flies into where they're keeping Bruce Banner. He lands on top of Bruce Banner while Bruce Banner's asleep. Then Bruce Banner, Hulk mode, boom, tackles Goku out the ship. They're falling out of space. Vegeta's like, goodness, Kakarot, you couldn't just keep it together. You know how he talks. Dang it, Kakarot. That kind of situation. So then he's getting knocked out. As they're falling, Vegeta goes down to try and go help Goku. Goku's trying to fly away from the Hulk. The Hulk grabs Goku's leg, and they're falling. And that's where that scene ends. So to switch up the story and really give it some depth, this is where I was actually thinking what could happen is we're going to show Thanos walking into where Zeno, the god above the multiverse of Dragon Ball. So where Dragon Ball Super shows that there is the Grand Zeno, which are like the god of God in the multiverse of Dragon Ball. So then you have Thanos walking up into their realm, and Thanos is looking for the Super Dragon Balls. You know that Thanos likes to collect the treasure trove of powerful items. He learns that there's a powerful item that can manipulate the life and destruction of multiverses at once, so he wants these Super Dragon Balls. And Zeno actually agrees to be willing to give them to Thanos. But Zeno, being as playful and as intrigued with possible outcomes as he is, he proposes that the only way he will do it is if Thanos gathers all Dragon Balls from the multiverse. Alright guys, this is actually where I want to end this video, end this storyline. I want some feedback on what you guys think Thanos would want the Super Dragon Balls for to do. Let's really be thinking here. Of course, sure, he could wish away the multiverse, but what else could he be thinking to do? Give me some ideas of what in the world could Thanos wish for with the Super Dragon Balls. Thank you guys.